Hi guys, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Pieter-Louis.
Welcome to our podcast Legend and Lore, a world tour. Today's episode is going to be a little different. We're not diving into dark forest or hunting beasts by moonlight. Instead, we're riding the waves, guided by stars, into the heart of the Pacific. To meet one of the most famous demigods in Polynesian mythology, Maui. Now, if you've seen Disney's Moana, you might feel like you already know Maui, the shape-shifting trickster with a magical fish hook and a larger-than-life attitude. But how much of that story actually comes from traditional folklore? Let's find out. According to the Polynesian mythology, Maui isn't exactly a demigod as portrayed in Moana. He's better described as a folk hero or a cultural trickster. Clever, mischievous, and always working to help humanity in unexpected ways. His origins vary slightly across the Pacific, but many of the core elements remain consistent. For example, in some versions, Maui was born prematurely. His mother, believing he wouldn't survive, wrapped him in a top knot and cast him into the sea. Do you know what a top knot is?
No, what's a top knot?
Okay, so basically they make this knot of the hair on top of the head, so the top knot is hair, but it's called a top knot on top of the head.
So it's a cloth.
No, it's a hair. She literally took some of her hair and wrapped it around him and threw him in the ocean, well, the sea.
And good luck, goodbye.
He was rescued by the ocean spirits who wrapped him in seaweed and jellyfish until the storm eventually washed him ashore. There, his grandfather found him and raised him until he was old enough to search for his family. So I'm not exactly sure if they realized he was his grandfather. I don't see anything about that, but his grandfather found him.
Okay, but this is just a version of the story because there's nothing very. I thought he was more like not a sentient being, but like
A god.
a god, yeah. Basically born of
Okay, but if you look at Moana, remember that he was cast out by his mother. It's actually his tattoos. He was cast out by his mother. They didn't want him. And then the gods, taking pity on him, turned him into a demigod. So I think he was always just
because it wasn't like
a god. He wasn't born from a god.
Yeah, it's not like the Greek mythology of Zeus and a cow or a chicken that suddenly became something and then magical
A bit
powers.
later you'll see he does have some sort of, but
It's not the powers that bother
he's
me.
not
It's
a
just
god.
it feels like he was just an abandoned child that became a demigod. So that's just like
Remember,
where we're going.
their mythology says it's not a demigod, it's a folk hero.
Yeah.
So he was a trickster who basically did stuff to help humanity.
Okay, but it's not a belief. It's not a religion.
It's a myth.
It's a myth. So
Mythology, yes.
mythology. So Maui isn't something somebody would worship. People don't worship Maui.
I don't know.
They called an island after him.
There's more than one. So
Well.
I think it's an actual belief in Polynesian mythology. I think they believe it. I don't know if they worship him, but I think they believe in him, that he's the reason there are certain islands. He's the reason. Well, we'll go through everything what he did.
Okay, no, just wondering because it still feels like we're just going. We're touching a part of it. I'm not sure. I don't actually know about him.
He
but
has
I
sort
don't
of
find
powers. We'll get there.
Okay.
Okay, so his grandfather found him and raised him. He reunited with his siblings. Basically, when he was old enough to start traveling, he found them and reunited. Not all of whom were thrilled to see him. They weren't exactly happy he came along, but their eldest brother convinced the others to accept him. And so began Maui's quest to prove his worth. Fishing wasn't one of Maui's strengths, or so his brothers liked to say. They often mocked him and left him behind, so one day Maui secretly stowed away on the canoe when they wouldn't take him along. When discovered, they refused to give him bait. So, ever resourceful, Maui punched himself in the nose, smeared his hook with his own blood, making it a magical hook, and cast it into the sea. As he pulled up a giant fish, he told his brothers to paddle the boat very hard to help in pulling it up. In the Māui version, Maui asked his brothers to wait, but they began chopping the fish up for themselves, and it turned into an island with mountains, valleys, and rivers that became the North Island of New Zealand. If the brothers waited, like Maui had asked, the island would have been flat and easy to cross. So because they chopped it as they chopped all these mountains and stuff started coming up on the island. And a flat island would have been easier to work with and so on. In the Hawaiian version, Maui used a magical hook baited with alia birds that are sacred to his mother. Instead of fish, he pulled up islands. He had told his brothers not to look back, but because one brother disobeyed him, less islands were pulled up. So if the brothers just listened, then he would have pulled up more islands for...
So, but these two versions, is it two different parts of the world? Because we're on the New Zealand side with the Maui.
So yeah, it's
And
the
then it's-
Mauroi.
I think
Mauroi.
it's Maori.
No, I've heard it lots. It's the like Maui, Maori. So it's Maori. Something like that.
Okay, let's go for Maori. Okay,
Yes,
Maori.
so
So the
it's-
Maori side, which
that's
I
a
believe
version.
is New Zealand, so that's next to New Zealand. And then there's a
Hawaiian.
Hawaiian version, which is completely on a different side of the world, basically. That's a big difference between Hawaii and Polynesia.
It's all Polynesian.
I think it's still in the same Atlantic Ocean. It's just
This is all Polynesian myths. It's
Okay.
Polynesian people.
yeah, because I'm going to a bit of googling to do while we go on.
You do that? Okay, so in the Hawaiian version, it was the islands and so on. So then, one day, a curious Maui wants to know where fire came from. His solution? Extinguishing all the fires in the village. I can just imagine him thinking it's really funny and running around and extinguishing all the people's fires. I
So
don't
all of
think-
this is a long, long time ago, according to all of these myths. It's a long time ago. So him and his siblings, this was before the age of islands. They pulled up the first islands.
Well, I don't know if it was the first ever, but yes, I'm guessing so. It was definitely for that.
So these siblings they talk about are basically also, let's say, demigods. Would you say?
No, they aren't.
But they could be because
No,
they existed.
They actually state they aren't. I'll get to that later. You're running ahead here.
No,
I'll
I've got lots of
explain it
questions.
later. No, I'll explain later, but these siblings don't have powers. Mom, yes. Dad, yes. Siblings, no.
Okay.
Okay, so his mother, Tonga, the village chief, said that someone would have to ask Mauika, the goddess of fire, who also happened to be Maui's grandmother. Maui jumped at the chance and offered to go find her. He found her in a cave in a burning mountain at the end of the earth. When Maui found his grandmother, she gave him one of her flaming fingernails so he could reignite the fires in the village. Are you following me or are you researching?
I'm following you. They gave him a fingernail of fire, basically.
Yes, so basically, all 10 her nails were actual fires.
I'm trying to picture the whole thing in my mind. It's just I'm falling back onto the story of Moana, which we've seen a thousand
Remember, that was
times.
Disney friendly.
I know, yeah. They had a problem with the plants that died, not the
Yes.
fires.
Not fires. The plants and everything was starting to die because the heart of the Firi was stolen.
Okay, but this is nothing like this. This is just
It's not the same.
all the villagers lost all the fire because they put out the fires. Now he gets
There
a
is one
fingernail.
guy who explains that they, in a way, the heart of the Firi was part of the legend, but it's very complicated, so I just...
Okay, but they put out the
Didn't go
fires in
into
the
that.
village, and then they.
No, they didn't put out the fires. Maui, not letting anybody know, decided...
Extinguishing all the fires in his village. That's what you
Yes,
said.
Maui, the trickster,
Yeah.
extinguished all the fires. Nobody else had a part in this. They were sleeping peacefully, and I thought, I want to know where fire comes from, and then extinguished all the fires.
And then his
Everybody
grandmother
woke
gave
up.
him a nail to give
Everybody
more fire.
woke up and was like, oh crap, we don't have fire. We're going to freeze to death tonight or whatever. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. And his mother said, the goddess of fire, Mauika, who happened to be his grandmother. I don't know if he actually met her before that because he had to go find her. But she can give him fire so he can bring it back and they can light the fires again.
Okay, how did they light the fires in the first place?
I'm guessing from the goddess of fire. And then somebody kept letting the
It's
fires
still
go.
just confusing. So he put out the fires, And
Okay,
she
remember
gave
they
him fire.
didn't go this deeply. Yes, but they wanted to see where fire came from, and she had fire
Okay.
because she's the fire goddess.
And she's got 10 fingers, 10 nails. What does her toenails do? Is that like water?
Well, she's the goddess of fire, so I'm guessing if you want to imagine her with toenails of fire, you do that.
How does she knip her nails?
She doesn't have to, she just burns them.
Okay.
Anyway, when Maui found his grandmother, she gave him one of her flaming fingernails so he could reignite the fires in the village. Maui, however, being the trickster that he was, decided to blow out the fire
So he blew out the fingernail.
that she just gave him. That
Okay.
is correct. Mauika gave him another nail, but Maui just kept on blowing them out one by one, like a mischievous child playing with birthday candles.
You only got to take like 10 chances, I'm guessing.
She's the goddess of fire,
Does
so
it-
I'm
does-
guessing there's
does the
fire
nail
all
just grow
around
back?
her. I have no clue, but she's the goddess of fire, so I'm guessing she has more than 10. I'm sure it can come back. Anyway, this enraged Mauika, so she sent fire to pursue Maui. He survived only by calling up on Tawira Matia, the god of
Well
wedding.
done. That's the first time ever. I'm guessing that's the closest to correct you can get. But okay.
Let's hope so. Please don't send me hate mail, everybody from the Polynesian culture. You can correct me, however. Okay, so anyway, the god of weather to put out the fire. Mauika threw her last nail at Maui, however it missed him and flew into some trees, bursting them into flames. Maui then took some of the trees' dried out branches and brought them back to his village. He then showed the villagers how to rub two sticks together and make their own fire.
Okay, so they could have done this. They didn't need
This
the
is
grandmother.
the first time this is the first time they found out how to do this. So because of Maui's trickster and the wood that dried out, he saw, okay, I can make fire here, and he taught them how to make fire because he saw the branches would burn. Well, obviously he had to know branches would burn. But yes, so because of Maui, that happened. But then there's also the Hawaiian version. It's quite a different story. The village's fires were extinguished by a previous night's cold wind, and instead of the goddess, Maui decided to capture and threaten the leader of a group of intelligent birds that have mastered the arts of fire making. So it's birds this
So
time.
there's two very different cultures, two different
In most
stories.
cases, they go together, but this one is very different. So, fearing for its life, the bird taught Maui how to produce fire by rubbing certain sticks together, and so Maui gave the gift of fire to humanity. So, I feel like in the first one, how did he know to rub the sticks together? They just burst into flames. The Hawaiian version, where the birds show him how to rub it together, makes more sense to me. But
I'm just
that's
wondering if there was one of the two stories that you would like to follow and make sure which one is the correct one, you'd say? Because where's the Maui Island? The Maui Island is in Polynesia, not in Hawaii.
No, I
Because
don't know.
Hawaii has the 4 islands, I believe. South Polynesia's got like 1 million of them, like islands everywhere. So. I think.
I don't know that well enough.
Okay, I just want to see.
You do that part, I'll do this part.
No, just it feels like I have to follow the Polynesian stories, just because of where the island is. Hawaii has a lot of stories of their own, especially all the volcanoes. Well, Polynesia also has a lot
So
of volcanoes.
Polynesian myths is there's New Zealand. Yes, there's New Zealand. There's Hawaiian. There's Tongan mythology. There's Tahitian. I'm guessing it's Tahitian mythology. Samoan mythology, and this is all part of the. This all pulls into Maui.
Yeah, I see now. Hawaii is part of
Mangroven
the
mythology.
Polynesian sub-region of Oceania. So it's not the South Polynesian, it's just the
So there's
Polynesian.
a lot of them. There's a lot of different. So Maui is.
So just to get to the facts part of it, it feels like what I'm seeing here is that basically all the islands of the Atlantic Ocean form part of Polynesia. It's not necessarily just New Zealand and the islands around New Zealand and Southeast Indonesia. It will be anything in the Atlantic Ocean. It forms part of a bunch of islands, which is the Polynesians.
I'm gonna keep that. Let you be the one to say that. I don't know.
No, I always thought Hawaii was specific to America, to the
No,
US,
I didn't think
because
about it.
Hawaii is a US state.
Yes, I didn't think. No, but okay.
But actually, I think I showed you the other day on Google Earth. It's how far is Hawaii actually from the
Yes, I
United
remember
States?
quite a while back, not even close to. Yes. I
Yeah, but
remember we
it's
spoke
scary how
about
far it is. So it might just be me not be completely wrong and not exactly sure where Polynesia is. I thought it was just like a little group of islands next to New Zealand.
Well, the UK ran South Africa at one stage, so I'm guessing where you make war, you take over. It's not necessarily that it's.
Yeah, it's not just about who controls who. It's just I'm thinking how big the world is and how far. So
They
Hawaii.
probably just never gave it back.
Yeah, so Hawaii
people.
and the South Polynesian Islands are 4,200 kilometers apart. So 4,200 kilometers, that's...
Like I say, they probably either somebody went to
that's-
buy it, somebody used war to
Yeah.
take it, and they just never gave it back
but
to its
just
people.
think of that distance. That means someone that lived in the Hawaiian
This is
part
all
of
theory, please.
Polynesia.
This
yeah.
is not fact.
Yeah, so the people who lived in Hawaii and the Hawaiian Polynesian islands would have never been able to cross the ocean to the New Zealand Polynesians because of the distance. It's just so far. It's a massive distance, not something you can kayak or boat to.
Well, somehow somebody had to do it because Maui.
Okay, but in Maui terms, no, that it's mythical, magical. That's
The fact that everybody knows who
Yeah.
Maui is, somewhere somebody had to connect.
yeah.
They got on a boat. Remember, if you think about Maui, they voyages.
Yeah.
So obviously they went from one island to the next to catch fish and live their lives and find new islands. So I'm guessing that's how they ended up on all the islands. But anyway, let's move along. According to legend, the skies laid heavily on the plants and the earth, which made it difficult for people to move around and plants to grow properly as they were being pushed down by the skies. So if you think of that song, You're Welcome, then he talks about...
Everything he did.
Yes, and then he sings about, while you were waddling yay high, I lifted the skies. So basically it appears that trees and plants and people, they couldn't stand up correctly until Maui lifted the skies. That's what they said. So, yes. So okay, so basically they're saying he lifted the skies. So basically Maui, looking to be a hero, quickly carried the sky up a mountain and threw it so hard that it hung higher. So everybody could move. And so Maui, looking to be a hero, quickly carried the sky up the mountains and threw it so hard that it hung higher. And in another version, he erected the pillars to hold the sky in place. A short myth tells how Maui released the wind. He tried to fly a kite, but when he couldn't, he went to an old priest who is the keeper of the winds and asked him to release the winds. But the unleashing of the winds were too strong, so Maui's kite was torn away. And he had to walk over 96 kilometers or 60 miles on foot to retrieve it.
I'm confused about how this is a demigod that goes sees a priest.
So
Well, not yet demigod, but to be demigod.
if you listen to the keeper of the winds, the goddess of fire, so obviously there are other gods and so on that he goes to. So that's what I'm saying. Technically, he's a folk hero and he goes to all the gods and all the priests and everybody who are the keepers of whatever elements.
It's just
And then he gifts that to humanity.
I'm just a logical thinking person that likes to follow a timeline.
Basically, he's the head boy, but he's mischievous. So, oh, we need fire. I'll go get it. Oh, we need wind. I'll sort it out. Oh, you can't walk. Don't worry. I'll figure out how to get the sky in the air.
But it's still just a timeline. You already had brothers and sisters and mother, grandmother, and then, oh, by the way, the sky was too low. Okay, so what did they all do before then?
Crawled around. I don't know.
It's just a timeline. I understand that this is a myth, and like a lot of mythology, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But like even the Greek mythology, And I think that might be where my mind will be going, is knowing the Zeus part of it and all those things that are more common. As I do know that, well, like you said, the sun in the sky, that is Greek mythology as well. It's a very close story to what you just said the Maorian version is.
Maorian, yes. I don't know how to answer you. Unfortunately, they don't tell you a lot more than, oh, it's this version. So next, Maui decided to lasso the sun. The villager was struggling. They didn't have enough time in a day to complete chores or eat before the sun disappeared again, or it would appear and reappear. It was hectic. And in the Maori version, Maui and his brothers decided to take the matter into their own hands. They traveled east to the pit where the sun god Tamanute Ras. Yeah.
Yeah, just one more time. Go for it.
Tamanutira slept. They tied ropes into a noose around a pit and built a clay wall to shelter behind. Maui then beats the sun with his fish hook or jawbone, depending on the version you read, until the sun agrees to move more slowly across the skies. In the Hawaiian version, Maui used snares from his own hair and traps the sun to compel it to travel more slowly through the skies, regulating its speed.
So he's got a top knot
Top
now.
knot there, yeah. Well, yes, obviously.
Oh, I thought top knot was a woman thing.
No, everybody, please don't come for me. If I understand correctly, it's a Polynesian thing. So the men and women have top knots. I can be wrong.
So it's
That's
a man bun, but not a
got.
man bun.
It's a man bun, basically, yes. But I just think
but
it's
for
more
men
fancy.
and women. Wait, I'm googling top knot now.
Okay, yes. Before I upset the culture.
Let's go for top
Okay,
knot.
so basically he trapped it. It moves more slowly, regulating the speed, giving humans more daylight. Maui settled down with Hina Telepau. They lived near a river where his wife would walk to fetch water. She was then assaulted by an eel named Tunamaro. Yeah? Tunaroa, father of the eels. Depending on a version you read, Maui set a trap for Tunaroa, building a bridge across the river and luring him to the other side, chopping off the eel's head when he crossed, or attaching a net to the river and chopping him into a bunch of tiny pieces. Maui then pushed the eel's remains into the river where it dissolved into many different species of fish, and then he buried his head, which resulted in first ever coconut tree growing. Once again, the song.
Yeah, the song, but once again, timeline. So what did his brothers and sisters eat before they were fish?
I'm sure there were berries and everything. No, it doesn't say
There
there
wasn't
isn't fish.
sun
There was an
yet.
eel. It just says that a lot of new fish came. It doesn't say there isn't fish.
The poor eel. How big was this eel?
If you look at a weird photo of it, then it's quite a big. But that's not what it's about. Even if it was a little eel, it's just about the idea.
Okay, top knot is basically a man bun. All the pictures I found, even looking for Polynesian top knot, it's exactly what it is. It's just your hair tied very tightly
Yes, I know
into
how
a
it
man
looks.
bun. Yeah.
Like I said, I'm just not sure if they still wear it.
It's
I
still
got
very-
the feeling it's men
very
and
popular,
women
yeah.
of Polynesian descent. This is...
It's still very popular. Not sure if it's still there. I'm guessing it is, but it's still a very popular trend across the world. Yeah, they still I can see people from 2000s still having top
wearing.
knots. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not sure they would like me calling it a man bun because man bun is just weird. But it's a
just
top knot.
it's what we call it. But I'm guessing there's don't know. It looks like there's braids in and so on. It's not just a...
There's braids and feathers and
Yes,
it
so
can be
that's
all
why I
of it.
think it's a top knot. A man bun is basically just putting your hair quickly up. I think they do more fancy things around it to call it a top knot. Okay, so that was all the myths that Maui sang about in the Disney song You're Welcome. And here is where Disney hit pause.
Does it get better or worse?
Oh, so much worse. There's one final tale, a darker one. Interestingly, Maui wanted to grant immortality to humanity, And trying to do this, he would need to reverse the birthing process by violating Hinaitupau, the goddess of death and the underworld. Maui transformed himself into a worm, crawled inside the goddess of death's privates while she was sleeping, intending to reverse the birthing process by crawling up and leaving through her mouth. A plan that frankly was doomed from the start.
And it's just funny, especially not, and I know what you mean. Before we started this podcast, Stephanie said there's some words we're not allowed to use for the podcast companies that don't allow us to use, and especially YouTube and so on.
I think it's only YouTube. I don't think
Yeah, I think it's mostly YouTube. I know, I understand why you said it, because it feels like we're trying to explain this to a 3-year-old. What did you say now?
Private parts.
Private parts and...
Yes, so basically going up...
Violating...
Well, it's still violating.
It's still violating. But
there's a worse word that I would like to use, but let's stick to violating. Okay, so his 4 brothers had joined him on this journey. He turned them all into birds so they could watch as he reversed the birthing process. His brothers, now birds, burst into laughter, waking Hinaitupau. When she realized what was happening while he was inside, she crushed him with her obsidian teeth in her private place, ending his quest for immortality and his life.
So he died.
He died. That's how he died. Obviously, that's the reason Disney would not say this. They wouldn't do anything.
Okay, so this is the end of the Maui. So that's basically where it all
where
stops.
Maui ends. Yes. Okay.
So he did all the fun Disney.
obsidian.
Yeah, so he did all the fun Disney stuff, and then he became worm and went.
So they didn't do that part. They left that.
Obviously,
it's
yeah.
never going to be in there because it's not
won't.
Disney friendly.
I'm just thinking, but it feels like there should be a lot more to that Disney did not say. It feels like there's a lifetime of stories that. Disney
No,
didn't
all that
cover.
I went through was in the Your Welcome song. Everything I went
Is it?
through, yes.
Except for that, so it's everything in your welcome song except for said worm part.
Yes. Okay, so obsidian is a naturally occurring volcanic glass formed when lava extruded from a volcanic cools rapidly with minimal crystal growth. It's a igneous rock produced from felsic lava. Obsidian is rich in lighter elements. Okay, and that's enough. Then teeth in the privates. In a folktale tradition in which privates is said to contain teeth, with the association implicating that men and women doing grown-up things might result in injury, emasculation.
Especially if teeth is involved.
Yes, I'm not sure if
And
we're allowed
worms.
to say castration, but that's...
I think you can say
that's
that's
in there
that's
as
a
well.
medical term.
I'm sure you're getting the effect that what the obsidian teeth is.
So basically, more of the story is don't become a worm and climb up places you're not supposed to climb and
yes,
be bitten.
apparently they do use it as a tale for violence against women. So to keep people in place.
I'm just where did, like a couple of the stories we've done before, especially this one, is where did they find this? Who thought of this? Who went, hey, let's make up a story about a worm?
Like I said, I don't think this is a myth. So I'm not sure it's a story that's made up. It's something that's passed down through generations. Like I say, they see him as a folk hero. So
like I say, this might sound strange to us, but there's people that heard about this their entire lives and for generations before that.
And they're still telling it to the kids. So
And to their kids. It's weird thing at some point someone had to think of this and write it down. But okay, if you believe it,
I'm not. If you believe it, if there's islands, there's who knows.
I've heard people believing in weirder stuff.
So some other interesting facts and myths I would like to mention. Maketatara, Maui's father and the guardian of the underworld. So there we
Okay, so his grandmother was a god.
Goddess of fire.
His mother was normal.
No, she was the village chief, but I think
But she
she
was
also
human.
had some. I don't know if she was human, Unfortunately, her name changed a lot, so I'm struggling to get where she fits in completely. Because there was a few places I could find her name and where they said what she was, so it just got too confusing. So, but the father stayed in the underworld. So yeah, I found that he's the guardian of the underworld. I originally thought he was the devil, but it says the guardian of the underworld. He messed up part of Maui's baptism when he rushed through it upon meeting Maui. This ultimately made Maui vulnerable and was the reason why Maui was destined to be killed.
I don't know where to go with that.
So basically, this is why I'm saying you were jumping ahead. Maui was the only sibling that had extra powers. So I was trying to figure out exactly why.
But they could have been turned into birds.
No, Maui turned them into birds. So Maui was the only one to have that extra power that basically made him almost like a demigod, which is why they made him a demigod. His 4 brothers and his sisters had nothing. But obviously his father was the guardian of the underworld. His mother was a chief, or who knows, even more. So Maui got powers. There's also something I didn't put here was the fish hook that we know from Moana. There is parts where he was gifted a fish hook or he stole it from his grandmother, but there's a other part that's more evil where they talk about the jawbone. Now, they talked about how Maui basically left his grandfather to starve to death so he could steal the jawbone and use that for his powers instead of the hook, the fish hook. It's just... It got very dark very quickly.
It does seem like that, but it also seems very unfair. It's like, so everybody's got powers except for the 5 brothers.
No, not everybody.
Well,
you mean the rest of the family?
Mom, grandma, dad, maybe mom, I don't know. And then everybody else in the world had powers. And then
Not
they had
everybody.
to live in a
But isn't this
skyless,
family?
countryless, eel, fishless world, and then...
There was eel, there were fish, there
but
were
now
eel,
there's
there
more,
were
more
fish.
more islands.
Yes. So there were, he just did more for the people. Okay. Anyway, I jumped completely off of script here. So one of the other things, Maui is known as a trickster hero, and he, Naitupau, is referred to the one being that cannot be tricked. This is the woman that killed him. Mm-hmm. So in pushing the limits too far by challenging death itself, he unfortunately lost his life in the process. So basically, because the father was in a hurry to baptize him, he caused that, and he made a mistake in the baptizing process. That left him open to death, and then he tried to trick death, and then he lost his life.
So he tried to trick his father.
No,
because his father was a god of the underworld.
No, yes, but he Naitupau was death itself.
Oh, okay.
There
so
was
his father worked
the
for
goddess of death and the underworld. He tried to trick the goddess of death and the underworld.
Okay, his father was the
guardian of the gate, I think.
Oh, was he just
father
a guardian?
and the guardian of the underworld? So he was the guardian of the underworld. Okay, so Maui did all these favors for humanity to win their favor and love because he was abandoned as a child and was trying to fill that place with his broken heart. So it wasn't just because, I just want to do. He wanted to be a hero. He wanted to be loved. He needed. He was abandoned. So he felt abandoned. He felt unloved. Yes, his mom took him back and everything, but obviously he was still thrown away. So obviously that's trauma he was trying to sort out. Okay. So Maui in the Polynesian mythology is normally portrayed as a handsome young teenager with a top-knot and well-built body. So in the Disney version, portrayed him as an overweight, huge demigod, the Polynesian community took it personally because apparently being overweight is a common stereotype about them. This was, however, not what Disney intended, and they had consulted a group called the Oceanic Story Trust, who were a team of experts in Polynesian things, all things Polynesian. Maui went through a lot of changes in the story, and the Oceanic Trust ended up insisting that he should be larger than life, a larger than life character, which is why he was so huge in the end.
I also saw some pictures on the online, especially I think Wikipedia and so on, about Maui being a bigger. It looks more like a sumo wrestler character. He was big in all the paintings and drawings that I can see.
No, he was actually this thin teenager with a six-pack and a top knot.
Oh no, it's just the one I quickly googled. I saw the big guy, the bigger one.
No,
looking
if
down
you
on
go
people.
look for Maui itself, I think they actually do give the...
But out of interest, like about this oceanic, whatever you call it, the people that trust that will say, okay, this is legit in the way it looked like. I do believe that's all because of a book that I think Jamie Oliver brought out.
No, I don't think they went anything
no,
about a book.
just about that. The reason this trust was created and why you had to consult people is he brought out a cookbook, I think, in which he portrayed the Polynesians and the New Zealanders in a wrong way that was not allowed to be that way. And in the big story, he lost millions and millions out of his cookbook. And after that, it's basically just double check everything with all the people of all the islands.
I think they always double check, but especially with our woke community,
yes,
anything
that's crazy.
offends. So I'm pretty sure they would have.
I wouldn't say that the island people get
Snow
offended
White
very easily.
that came out tanked 100% horribly because they had an issue with the one main character and the other main character said things that upset the world. I'm not going to go into that because
For reasons.
I don't want to be a part of that fight. But so I think Disney always makes sure they stick to the culture as far as possible. The original, which funnily enough, the original version they had was a smaller guy, if I'm correct, with a six-pack, but he was bald, which is weird, but he was bald and so on. And then they're talking about like 9 versions or something that the story went through as the Oceanic Trust developed the story further. And in each version, he got bigger and bigger and got hair and everything because they wanted him to be a larger-than-life character. There's thunder out here, so if I run away and the things, we'll finish the story tomorrow because I'm right next to the window and it's extremely cold. And sorry, the thunder just told you it's here as well. Maybe telling us Maui's listening, I don't know. But yeah. Sorry for the rain and the thunder in the background.
But I've got so much I'm thinking of now, especially when you say Disney. All the faux pas and the issues that Disney had in the past, for them to actually consult people to make sure this is written correctly. Was the Maui, the Moana script written for movie, or was it written as a book before it was a movie?
I have no clue about that. You can actually Google the Moana movie and they give you the all. I didn't really go into that.
That would be interesting if it was written as a movie or it was just maybe a book.
I don't think it was a book.
Because I can't think that Disney went through all the effort of doing.
They always go through effort. Are you joking?
No, Disney.
The whole reason I started this because it's the Grimm brothers that keeps on popping up with all the evil stories and then all the Disney stories, and that's why I told you this time where we always do folklore and stuff. I have to know because Maui started popping up everywhere, and I was like, I need to know more about this. So I'm going down the rabbit hole of what the Disney movies were, because everyone seems to come from an actual myth or folklore or something. And normally it has a much darker end, so I need to know these things. So we're going into...
But if you ever want to know about, like I said, I'm not attacking Disney, I'm just saying they tend to hide things. And
No, of course they have to hide it. It's children's stories. Of course it has to be...
If you ever want to not like Disney, go Google Disney and the Lemmings. Is it the Lemmings?
I have no clue what you're talking about.
So a long time ago, Disney had a documentary made about the lemmings. I think it was somewhere in the south near Antarctica or something, where they showed a video of lemmings, which is this little animal, little like a mouse kind of thing, or not completely, but a bit bigger than a mouse, where they apparently commit suicide in big groups, where they run off cliffs and then fall down, and then they had made a big video of this. All these lemmings running down and falling and dying, which is very sad. But what they never told anyone is that the camera crew actually, because apparently it was a myth, the lemmings do not commit suicide. And they already set out to making this documentary about lemmings committing suicide. They actually had the camera and production crew run after the lemmings and force them down the cliff, killing thousands of them
Oh no.
for video
That's
footage.
just absolutely no.
Just
I
because
didn't
they
need
didn't
to
want
know
to be
that.
wrong. Yeah, I'm gonna wait. Let me quickly send you a link if you wanted to.
I don't. I think no. It's okay. I have to sleep tonight. I already didn't sleep last night thanks to my 2 little ones. So let's not give me reasons to not sleep.
I'm just saying
I don't want bad dreams.
I would think Moana was based on a book rather than.
Okay, so basically, after directing The Princess and the Frog in 2009, Clements and Musker started working on an adaptation of Terry Pratchett's Mort. But problems with acquiring the necessary film rights prevented them from continuing with that project. To avoid a recurrence of the issue, they pitched 3 original ideas. The genesis of one of those ideas, the one that was ultimately greenlit, occurred in 2011 when Musker began reading up on Polynesian mythology, and learned of the heroic exploits of the demigod Maui. Intrigued with the rich culture of Polynesia, he felt it would be a suitable subject for an animated film. Shortly thereafter, Musker and Clement wrote a testament and pitched it to John Lasseter, who recommended that both of them should go on research trips.
Yes, let's go on vacation.
Okay, but now, remember, if you go back to all our grandfathers and their grandfathers and so on, you look at everything they did wrong in life, we're never going to be at peace. There's always somebody that did something wrong. So, okay, granted, not a fan of what they did. Not at all. But how many generations back was that and so on? And how much have they done to improve it? Because back then it wasn't an issue to kill an animal because who cared? In today's day, we think about other animals and protecting them and not killing them, and most probably a wildlife sanctuary would be, or somebody who cared for these pets will now be with them, and you won't just be able to kill them because the whole world will come down on you like everything. So, yes, I feel that in most cases it looks like they did do their research, they followed the myth. Obviously they have to keep it child friendly, so they do change things.
Okay.
I mean, Moana is one of our almost 5-year-old son's favorite stories. It's like we have to listen to Moana's songs in the car all the way to school each day because he liked it so much. So they still produce something that's special, and obviously they did try to stick to Polynesian mythology. They did try to honor it, I feel. So they're not
Which is
all
amazing
bad.
for writing a script. That there's I'm also on Wikipedia still now, looking at everything about Maui, how they managed to create an entire movie around 5 facts that keep on repeating. There was the birds, there was a fire, there was his death, there was putting the islands, and that's basically it. I thought there would be like
So there was
books and stories about him.
There was a YouTuber that explained they went deeper, but like I said, it got too complicated for me. But basically, the lava lady, the guy said it's 2 of the gods that they put together, and instead of his death, they used this.
No, so they basically created a story.
No, apparently, yes and no.
They made a story out of 2 stories.
Yes, they took the gods, so they still highlighted the true Polynesian part without the violation part. So he took her heart and those type of things. And obviously Maui didn't have to die. But it sounds to me like they stuck true to the Polynesian side, which is, I think, beautiful.
I think so, but like I said, you can't go very wrong here. I don't think you'll upset anyone getting anything wrong with Maui, because there's not a lot.
Get very upset about their culture. There is actually a lot. You're just looking at Wikipedia.
Oh no, yeah, and then there's a Tongan, Tahitian, Samoan, Migrevian, all the different kind of mythologies there is, but they all talk about the same 5 things.
No, yes and no. Like I
It
said,
does
there are
differ a lot in between, but like I
not
said, as long as you
always.
get these 5 things correct, you can make up a story as far as you want for Disney's purposes.
Okay, but remember, it's not just that they took this folk hero, yes, but they still stuck to Moana and voyages, and it wasn't just about Maui. Yes, they made him important, but if you think Moana is the main character and she realizes their voyages and they look at her culture and what she has to find and how she has to help her people. So no, I think it's not just Maui, but yes, you have to pick somebody to make a story about. It's the same if you write a book. You're going to have a main character which you're going to build everything around. Same thing. That's how anything is built. You have to pick a storyline or a person or main character. That's how it works.
Like I said, it's 5 big topics about him, but that's it. It doesn't go very deep. It
I
does,
don't
it's
know.
weird, but yeah.
It went a lot farther than I thought. When I started seeing it popping up, and no, but they're not going to tell you the real version of Maui. And I always wondered what the song was about, because what he sang, "You're welcome," and now I actually know. So I was really interested, and it was very interesting to research it.
Well, would you have known about Maui as a demigod if it wasn't for Disney?
No.
Because I know about the island. I never knew anything. And I knew the islands.
Didn't know.
I know a
about
lot of the
anything.
islands were named after gods or.
I would have never looked into it. I would have never known about it. I thought the story was about Moana. I never actually thought about Maui until it started popping up everywhere while I was researching other things. Like I say, that's when I told you, wherever you look at folklore, it's like the Grimm brothers went and literally traveled around and took all the folklore and then wrote their stories from it. And then obviously that was made into friendlier stories by other people or Disney or wherever. So it's literally people that traveled around and took actual folklore and mythology and made stories about it. It wasn't just something they thought up,
Well, it's interesting.
which I thought it was like 2 brothers that made up stories. Like, ooh, what are we going to... No, they traveled around and took actual folklore. It's amazing. I never knew that.
Okay. No, it's just a thing that I saw. A thing that I know, not saw.
Well,
and
that's
I
what I
might-
think anyway. It's
and I
science.
I might be making stuff up again, which is something I do. A lot of these islands in Polynesia, on Google Earth, I can see all the different islands that are part of. Sure, a lot of them, Hawaiʻi and Cook Islands, there's Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, New Zealand's down there, going a slight bit up more. What's this? Here's a little island here which I've never seen before in my life. With this Kiribati, Napari, a lot of islands. A lot of them, basically, they have volcanic activity, so a volcano on said island, and the volcano is the god, which is interesting. So volcano became the god, and the god is, if you think about it, how this correlates with the what's this guy's name now? The topic of today?
What, Maui?
Maui. The part about Maui is also the volcano. The Maui also has a big volcano on the island. I'm going to find out what the volcano's name is. If the name of the volcano is Maui, then
I know a lot of the islands, they actually use like the Maui and add something.
oh no,
Like the
there's
Moroi legends. It's the same Mo.
Halaikala or the East Mole volcano.
Sorry guys, I don't know if you can hear the rain, the thunder in the back, but at least it's nice.
No, you
in
won't,
a way.
because I will be putting sound effects over. You were saying.
It's okay, they can hear thunder in the back. It makes the
Okay, so
the
active
god
shield-
story more interesting.
Active shield volcano that forms more than 75% of the island of Maui. Okay, so there's just one island and it's not a god. It might be a god now. What does that mean? Anyway, sorry, we're completely off track here.
Okay,
I'm
so
just trying to figure out how volcanoes and Maui got
you
together.
always go off track. So basically, the Grimm brothers, Jacob and William, did not come up with the stories in the sense of original creations. They primarily They primarily gathered and recorded existing folk tales, primarily from oral traditions and sometimes from written sources. They sought to preserve and document these tales as a part of German culture heritage. So, yes, I'm correct.
I'm also correct, I found out now. So, Haleakala translates to House of the Sun in Hawaiian. The name is derived from a Hawaiian legend where the demigod Maui, according to legend, lassoed the sun. So the volcano on the island of Maui is named after Maui.
Maui.
So this character that we're discussing now is actually a volcano as well.
Okay, remember, it's not a character. It's not an actual. It's mythology. So
The sentient,
don't offend
the sentient
Polynesian.
being that happened to have a grandmother that made flames with the toenail clippings,
No, with her fingers.
fingernails, and with a father that was a guardian of the underworld. That sentient being is also a volcano, in theory. Loosely translated.
I actually think the goddess of fire. That's why I'm saying, because you remember the island that was in Moana where the heart was stolen. I think actually they used the goddess of fire, which volcanic rock and everything. So she was the volcano, and then another goddess and added them, and then got this island.
Mm.
I cannot remember the island's name at all.
In the movie.
Yes, where she sang to I cannot remember the name. But okay. Lastly, I found a YouTuber at It's Ivan Mars who shared a fascinating theory, though I couldn't verify the sources. I tried to see if I could find something that said the same, but I really couldn't. So I don't know if this is just his opinion, but it was interesting. This is the first thing I saw which actually brought me into looking into Maui. An eel falls in love with a Samoan girl named Sina.
How did the eel and the girl get together? My mind goes into weird places now.
Just go with it.
Where on Tinder?
Nowhere
Where
did
on
they
Tinder
just say.
can you swipe left for an eel? Okay, I don't know how internet
They
works.
always show her lying against a coconut tree. So, I don't know. An eel falls in love with a Samoan girl named Sina, which is the same name as Moana's mother in the movie. The Samoan girl gets scared by the eel's obsessive behavior and asks her husband Maui to kill it. Just remember, they talk about the eel as a father of the eels or a god or whatever. So it's an eel, but they have powers.
Okay, so the eel fell in love with a girl that's already married.
Yes.
Okay, so it's
And
not
he
even
was
a girl.
obsessive.
Okay, wait. I need to kill the mic.
And he's obsessive, and his obsession started to scare her, so she asked her husband, Maui, to kill it. He kills and buries the eel, and the first ever coconut tree grows there. So the question they ask is Maui then in actual fact Moana's father, a real father? And that is why she is able to become a demigod in the second movie. Lastly, they talk about one of Sina and Maui's children who is named Pue, and he resembles a pig. In the movie, Moana had a pig called Pue, who they never eat, even when their food was scarce.
So that's very wild and
They went wide with this one. It was very interesting, and that caught my attention. So if the guy is talking the truth or not, if he made it caught my attention.
Well, if you want to go deeper into it, let's say back to the volcano god, that does mean that Maui is then all the islands that he pulled out of the sea's father,
No,
which is
it's
all
not,
So
no.
basically he's a father to all the islands and all the islanders. That would make sense.
Yes and no.
You can swing it any way you want. I think it's very easily and plainly put down.
You're
and-
breaking my brain. Let's stick to... You're taking it too far.
Well, I wouldn't mind seeing where this leads to.
I couldn't find anything. I tried because
Yeah.
this was. I love this idea. Except, okay,
the-
obviously, then it means that the only thing there that bugs me is then obviously the mother either cheated on the dad or she got remarried. I didn't like that part.
Or the father is a god. which is Maui.
No, remember, because in the movie, Sina was married to Moana's father.
Yeah.
So if she was married to Maui, which is definitely not the father she has on the islands, what happened that she's not married to Maui?
Now you're breaking my brain. Let's just go that this
Moana
is a twist to the story.
has a dad and a mother.
She also has a pig, so
Yes, so they brought in parts. But like I say, it gets
like I said, there were the 5 points about Maui that you had to get right, which they
Six.
five of the 6 they had to get right.
pull the
Number
island
six,
from
six
the
that-
ocean, stole fire. Well, not really stole fire, but yes, stole fire. Pulled up the sky, harnessed the breeze, lassoed the sun, and buried the eel's guts to give us coconuts.
And had
And
worm
the
time.
death.
Yeah. Sexy worm time.
Just no. It's not sexy because it's violation, so no. Okay.
And then bitten, whatever. Okay. Just,
Yeah, the thief got me. The obsidian thief. That, and then especially where I originally watched this, the image was horrifying. So just I can't get that out of my brain. Don't go looking for
well, we
that.
haven't touched on the pig yet. But okay, the pig doesn't really mean much to me.
Like I
At
say,
no
this
point
is,
do I think the pig was anything, a son or a daughter
you can go into the whole history of all their siblings and so on, and all their names and everything and how they looked. So it's just if this part is true about the Pue and one of the siblings looked like a pig, it was just Disney bringing in some more of Maui's culture in a nice way. Because, I mean, the pig and the chicken really make a big part of that story. We always root for them, laugh at the sea, getting angry at the chicken and throwing him back in the boat. So, yeah.
No, I've got
Anyway.
too many questions. Well, I don't
I
even have
cannot
questions. I
answer
would just
them.
like to. Maybe it feels like I'm missing. There should have been like 6 books we could have read about this, but there's nothing.
I have an idea.
No matter how far we Google.
Let's go there and...
Well, let's go to Bora Bora. I always want to go to Bora Bora
Why not Hawaii?
because Hawaii is boring.
Have you ever been on Hawaii? You just
No, I
upset
haven't.
an entire island. You will
No,
get
not just one island.
stoned to
Hawaii
death.
is 4 islands.
You will
And
get
part
stoned.
of Polynesia, which is 1,000,000 islands apparently,
It's
which I've
still-
completely missed.
It's still something I would love to go
so
see.
in between New Zealand and Hawaii, there's Bora Bora. So part of all these islands, Bora Bora does count as part of Maui.
I would
okay,
rather go to
sort
the
of, but not.
islands that specifically know more about Maui, which are named after Maui, because somebody on there will tell you.
I'm pretty sure someone at Bora Bora will say, hey, there's a country called Hai. Hai. Okay. Anyway, sorry, I didn't know about an island called Hai. There's so many islands we can go visit. It's fine. Just go.
I'll start with the New Zealand ones and the ones that can tell me more about the mythology. Okay, so that's the tale of Maui. This rabbit hole was far more complex, strange, and epic than what Disney could fit into one song. Do you know more Maui myths or stories we missed? Let us know.
If you enjoyed diving down this rabbit hole in the world of weird with us, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share your thoughts. Remember to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for more content. And please share our podcast with your fellow folklore lovers to help us grow.
Until next time, stay curious and keep the legends alive. Bye.
Bye.